Good morning on Monday, the 6th of January 2025. It's 8 a.m. in the Gambia and therefore coffee time on West Coast Radio with me, Peter Gomez. And coming up over the next 1 hour, Madi Jobarteh is our guest to start off the week. The founder of the Edward Francis Small Center for Rights and Justice wants 2025 to be a year of accountability. But what year was 2024 in his assessment? Stay tuned to hear his thoughts. Also on the program, the front pages of Monday's 5 papers. Thanks for joining us on this first Monday of 2025. First up in the press review is Gambia Daily. President Barrow leaves Banjul today for President-elect Mahama of Ghana's inauguration. Ali Ulum is Deputy Chief of Staff at Presidency. Gambia intensifies preparations for inter-regional ministerial meeting on anti-doping. Nana orientates community structures on positive, playful initiative of RISE project. And MECNA, the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources, supports women agripreneurs through RICA project. The front cover of the Point reads, GRA generates over $20 billion in revenue. Police arrest suspected robber but accomplice at large. Ali Ulum appointed new Deputy Chief of Staff at Presidency. Banjul Central NAM raises alarm over depreciation of Dalasi. Mini truck runs into football fans, killing 3 and injuring about 40 in Kafuta. And Barrow signs Book of Condolence for late U.S. President Carter. Good morning, Mr. President, which is the Point's Monday editorial, is on 2025 resolutions and GRA's record yearly collection. Now, Foraya's front page. Public littering, a mockery of Gambia's Anti-Littering Act of 2007. GRA set $23 billion target, exceeding 2024 revenue milestone. A Gambian woman's journey from antagonistic marriage to empowerment. Police arrest suspects in robbery along Sukuta Jabang Highway. And Chronicles of Blackness, surviving the shadows of Libya and Europe. Let's take a look at the front cover of The Voice now. GRA collects over $20.83 billion in revenue for 2024. Failure of Gambia's economic sector, starving citizens, claims Ibrahima Tabora Mane. COPG maintains position on reintroduction of 2020 draft constitution. Jar rice will be sold at between $1,500 to $1,700 per bag. Authorities clamp down on restaurants, bars, and vendors for violating Tobacco Control Act. Ministry of Fisheries hands over 20 artisanal fishing boats and units to communities. And Basse NYP calls on youths to embrace skills and be law-abiding. Finally, the Standard. Yanks Dabo reveals reasons for UDP's election loss in 2021. 1 dead and 43 injured in Kafuta as truck plunges into crowd. GRA given a target of $23 billion in 2025. Diaspora outraged by government's cancellation of maternity ward project in Chairman. GPPA awards scholarship to 35 procurement officers to study in Ghana. Ali Ulum appointed Deputy Chief of Staff, and Deputy Speaker extols Barrow's infrastructural developments in Nyanija. And that was your first look at Monday's newspapers. Our thanks to Foraya, The Standard, The Voice, The Point, and Gambia Daily. If you'd like to advertise on the program, get in touch with Mr. Jibril Jassi on 699-0107 or 787-0107 or 924-2424. It's Monday. the 6th of January 2025, and this is Coffee Time with Peter Gomez on West Coast Radio. Madi Jobarteh is our guest this morning. A new event in the calendar of the UDP reached its conclusion in Banjul on Sunday. Our S. Jallo will explain after the break. Welcome back. Advertise on the program to keep us on air. Get in touch with Mr. Jibril Jassi on 699-0107 or 787-0107 or 924-2424. Madi Jobarteh is here. But before we begin our conversation, towards the end of last year, the UDP organized a program and called it Diaspora Homecoming Event. The event, which is envisaged to be annual, offers new opportunities to the hundreds, possibly thousands of UDP supporters who return home annually at this time of year to be with their friends and family. Our S. Jallo reports on the first UDP Diaspora Homecoming Event.
The United Democratic Party, UDP, marks the end of 2024 to 2025 Diaspora Homecoming. The Diaspora Homecoming was initiated to bring closer cooperation between the National Executive Committee of the UDP and those in the diaspora. This is also an opportunity for the party supporters to either meet in person for the first time or reunite with their long-lost friends while visiting their families in the Gambia. They also use this opportunity to raise funds that support the activities of the party. During this event, the chairman of the Diaspora Homecoming said some of the activities they have engaged in is a Quranic recitation at the Pipeline Mosque, stakeholders meeting, UDP Congress meeting, a symposium, and the women wing went for a community outreach. The 2024 to 2025 Diaspora Homecoming is the first and they hope for it to continue. The chairman again said their goal is to have a responsible UDP government that will care for the need of the people, making sure there is employment opportunities which will stop others knocking on people's door to beg, which is very sad. Rahim Malik Low, the mayor of Banjul, added in order for this dream to come to reality, they must have to see themselves as one family and amend their ways because some of the way the executive members behave is not the way to win an election. The party is glad to have achieved the objective for this chapter of the Diaspora Homecoming and have learned a lot, and also willing to work on some of the requests made by the party supporters. For West Coast Radio, our S. Jallo reporting.
Now, many of those UDP diasporans, after taking part in the event, will now be flying back to their adoptive homes in the U.S., where today marks 4 years since the January the 6th, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, when a mob of then-President Trump supporters smashed their way into the building under the false belief that the 2020 election had been stolen. The legacy of that day remains a bitter partisan divide in the U.S., in much the same way as the legacy of December the 5th, 2021 remains a bitter partisan divide in our country. That was the day the IEC formally declared Adama Barrow the winner of the 2021 presidential election, but to this day, the UDP, echoed by other opposition parties and politicians, insist the vote was stolen, despite failing to prove the allegation in court. When Madi Jobarteh is here this morning, not to talk about that per se, but hey, who can predict this activist without borders? My conversation with him is on his declaration, or his center's declaration of 2025 as the year of accountability. Madi, welcome.
Transparency and accountability.
Transparency and accountability.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
And Happy New Year. Glad to be here.
You chuckled in the background as I was, introducing you, suggesting that I can't, dictate what you choose to speak about, especially now that we are live, and I hope that you don't go on a rant against President Barrow.
You said activists without borders.
Yes.
Certainly. We have to speak to all issues, Peter. After 60 years of independence, the social, economic, political conditions in this country, it's so that we speak to all issues. So whether it's about government or political parties or about the media, any sector, we got to speak to to these issues, bluntly, directly. And, for someone like me, over the past 30 or so years, I've been in the policy and development processes of the Gambia as a journalist, as a development worker, as an activist in the civil society, and so on. There's no place I have not gone to for a meeting, from State House in Banjul to Brikama Area Council. I've gone across this country. I've sat down in meetings discussing policy, plans, agendas, projects, and so on. So there is nothing in terms of the development, the policy, institutional frameworks of this country for the past 30 years in which I have not been involved. Interestingly, our common friend Iso Williams of BBC, former BBC, shared with me a 1992 report I did at Radio Gambia for News at 10 probably, or Weekend Spectrum, at the graduation of at Gambia College. Then Jawara was presiding over, and so, and I've heard what Jawara said. In my report, I brought in Jawara's voice, speaking about the purpose of education and the intentions of his government and so on. I've covered Jame. I've interviewed Jame. I've sat, as I said, in meetings at State House all the way down across the country. I've been involved since 2017. So I have, gone through, and at this age, with this experience, with this knowledge I have, Peter, I think for me, there's no excuse, really. I have seen it all. And if I say so, what about you, who've been there before me and many others?
I probably sent you on that assignment to go and bring me
exactly, to go and bring you that report. So, and then I look at the cabinet, the current cabinet of Barrow. I see folks there who were involved with the Jawara government as officials. Musa Dama was a senior official during Jawara's days. I look at Tangara was a senior official during Jammeh's days. And today you have Ibrahim Asila and all these other people. So we have a whole generation that has started from the First Republic to Jammeh, the Second Republic with Jammeh, and now. And so why should this country be like this? We have enough expertise, enough experience.
You should offer some insight. Why do you think the country is like this?
Yeah, so this is why we say the year of transparency and accountability. So that when I look back, I think fundamentally what has been missing in our policy and development processes over the period is the lack of transparency and accountability, particularly of the public sector. That public institutions, public officials do not feel obliged to be transparent to Gambians about the way and manner they manage our resources and our affairs.
And understandably so, because where they have not been transparent and accountable to Gambians, there's been, no punishment.
Yeah.
No consequences at all.
Exactly, because accountability is what tells us whether we are making progress or failure. Accountability determines whether we have development or no development, whether we have human rights protection or human rights violation. So accountability is the heart of the matter of our governance and development. But accountability cannot prevail if there is no transparency. And consequently, the lack of transparency and accountability impacts hugely also on citizen participation, because citizens have to know. Transparency enables citizens to be involved, to participate, to influence. And so the fact that you have low transparency means citizens are limited in the way they understand how their state is performing, is functioning, is responding to their needs. And so that affects, therefore, how much they want to influence, to participate as a means to hold public institutions and officials accountable. So that all that together, it means at the end of the day, what you're going to have is corruption. What you're going to have is poor service delivery. What you're going to have is waste of public resources, mismanagement of public resources, or delivery of poor quality products and services, erratic products and services, which at the end of the day are just going to be more expensive for citizens. And so all of the problems we face, the unemployment, the high cost of living, the hopelessness in this country. Look at the Afrobarometer study. Citizens just want to leave. Citizens in Gambia is in the wrong direction. Yeah. All of these are consequences.
Government has categorically rejected the Afrobarometer
Well,
report?
I mean, I'm coming to issue my piece on response to the government's response to the Afrobeat this morning from here. So I hope you read it to see the issues. I mean, and focusing on Ismail Assise himself.
What have you got to say in response? I mean, they have said that,
Well,
you know,
one needs to
taking Dr. Demba Sabali, for instance, he could go and, you know, come out with a report that suggests that over 90% of Gambians are satisfied. If he goes to, you know, a chosen area in the URR, for instance, and speaks to 1,200 people, we know the URR, you know, is predominantly Adama Barrow supporting. He would come out with a report that says, you know, we are very satisfied with the way Adama Barrow is running this country.
And I'm sure, you know, cool-headed people like you and me would just know this is a joke. I mean,
what's to suggest that they are not cool-headed?
Well, I'm just saying if they do an exercise of that nature, certainly we will know this is not a serious issue we are talking about, or, you know, people. But certainly Afrobarometer and, you know, its partner in the embassy, CRPD, it's a professional institution. I mean, dedicated to a practice.
We should also say that Said Mati was on the program, you know, vehemently defending his report.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and based on, I mean, professional standards in terms of this kind of exercises. So it is not just their imagination, you know, or their wish, so to speak, but this is about people saying, you know, if you look at the Afrobarometer slogan, they say, let the people say, you know, and in 2018, Ismail Assise was the co-led the Afrobarometer round 8 probably in the Gambia. And in presenting the results of that at UTG Law Faculty, he spoke about how important this exercise was and how useful it is to government, and in shaping government, using this to shape their policy and how to better respond to people.
Yeah, but that Ismail Assise is not the current Ismail Assise.
Well, just as the positions change, it's the same Ismail Assise. So he was a lecturer at the UTG at the time.
That's exactly what
today, I mean, he is a, you know, minister in this government. Yeah, so I will respond to that, really. But it is to say, it is precisely that we thought as Edward Francis Small Center to declare this year the year of transparency and accountability. I wish the Barrow would have made such a declaration in his New Year message. You know, a New Year message has to have a resolution, has to have a purpose, has to have direction. So every year the presidents come and make a New Year, you know, message. But I would
his message was, this is the year before election.
Yeah.
And
you know,
he will continue with
law-abiding and so on.
That is a,
citizens, the politics.
That is a message.
Yeah,
isn't it?
the politics, I don't know what he meant by, and, you know, is a cause for concern. No, I mean, I think on a serious note, the president's speech writers and the president himself, particularly, need to sit back at the end of the year before delivering a New Year message to ask about his purpose, really, to review the year, to look at the situation of the country, and to come up with a vision as to what kind of year he is looking towards to.
He normally does that in the State of the Nation address.
Yeah, but that is still a different matter, because a New Year and a State of the Nation address are very different. The State of the Nation address is a constitutional requirement, and it is very clear in the Constitution what it is supposed to address.
So he's putting out the message at the wrong time and failing to put out, you know...
Well, you know, the State of the Nation address lays out his policies,
yes,
you know, for the coming year.
But that's when he usually reviews, you know, the past year, what they have achieved, and, you know, then, lays out his plans for the new
I
year.
think that there's no harm for him to do a review and the New Year's message also, which does not, have to be as elaborate as the State of the Nation address, because the State of the Nation address would entail a lot more. But, for the purpose of the New Year, we are coming to a New Year. And here it is very practical because it's 1st of January to 31st December. What do you perceive
when the new financial year begins?
Exactly. You know, you have a new budget coming to implement and so on. So for me as a president, as a leader, you know, above all as a leader, how do you want to drive your people, into this new year?
So you feel that that has been missing this year? We still don't know what his intentions for 2025 are.
At all, at all. So, but as an organization, we feel, given the trajectory this country has been on since, not just 2024, but since independence, is such that, we feel the issue of transparency and accountability are so fundamental and being essentially at the heart of our problems, that there is a need for a national focus on transparency and accountability. And, when you look at the events in 2024, that's very apparent. Look at the so-called 2024 draft constitution, which I call the Barrow Papers. There's no transparency about it. Who wrote that? That draft?
The cabinet.
Yeah, but can they tell us actually? Was it the whole cabinet that sat down? Who chaired that meeting? When did they write that?
The president chairs all cabinet meetings.
Well, but that is information that Gambians deserve to know, as how this so-called 2024 draft came about, and so that is a matter of transparency and accountability, because also by knowing who did this, who wrote this, you are putting citizens in a position now to ask relevant questions, to engage in a way to raise all the issues of legality, legitimacy, and so on about the whole process. So that aside, we had over the period so many incidents. So many events, issues for which there needs a lot more transparency and accountability.
Issues like?
2024, we just, I think towards the end of it, the IC audit issue came up, for example. Until now,
we had the Russian oil saga.
We had the Russia. I'm coming to all of that. But
Okay.
but to talk about public institutions like IEC, all what we've heard is how IEC wrote to the president to chair not to allow the police to probe this. But the IEC as an institution did not feel responsible enough to come out to speak to the issue,
And there's been no update from the police.
No update, yeah.
About
And then
investigation
the
and all
police,
of that.
no update. Before that, we had the NAWEC, 7 people died. Doing a NAWEC work. And until now, NAWEC said, issued a press release at the time on the police. And until now, we don't know what is the fate of of that investigation, if any investigation is going at all. We had the airport incident, as well, not long ago, as it is. So when you go down the line, you would see a lot of these issues. Either there's an initial press statement, very brief, that yes, there would be investigation, but then citizens will
There
not
are
be-
always investigations.
Yeah.
The problem is we never, know what the outcome of investigations is.
Yeah. You go to the National Assembly, they've passed a lot of resolutions. The inquiry is going on, of course, about the gun petrol, the Russian oil thing. At one point, you feel, is it abandoned or is it still going on? But National Assembly, as an institution, should feel obliged to say, look, at this point, we need to speak to our citizens.
And again, the National Assembly, sometimes it takes decisions,
Yeah.
all right, to be implemented by the executive. Nothing comes out of it. The NDMA, for instance.
And so the
And all they would
resolution
do is just sit in Parliament and shout again
Yeah.
and shout and shout.
Yeah, so on the COVID audit, the PAC and the PEC, they have come out with resolutions, on impressed issues, on the COVID issues, and all of those things has come out. The Public Petitions Committee did bring out a report also about the GT board, the Ministry of Tourism, the petition from GT board staff about the corruption in that agency and the ministry and so on. And they made resolutions that by, December 30, December 1st, 2024, some things would happen, November, and now we are here in January, to give even an update to citizens that based on our resolutions that we made in July 2024, in September 2024, this is the outcome. So citizens practically live in this country and don't know the decisions or actions or the lack of them that the government makes in their name are told why those decisions are made. And if that is the case, therefore, what would happen is impunity, because it means effectively no institution will be held to account.
Okay, and as part of your year of accountability and transparency, are you going to go to court to try to force, some action on some of these areas where there has been inaction?
Seriously, as I speak now, we have approached a number of lawyers, submitted letters to put cases before them, that these are cases we want to go to court. Yes, I mean, so we are hoping, we are just after the break, we are hoping to receive responses. So you may see a lot of our cases in court, against a number of institutions, public institutions in this country.
Cite one or two, for instance. I mean,
from the Office of the President, the MEGNA, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of...
is it over the Salaji thing?
Yes, I mean, as well as... you recall we had written request for information based on the Access to Information Act. So to 6 institutions, GT Board, Ports, SOE Commission, the Office of the President, Ministry of Lands, and so on, and including the Information Commission, we are determined to take them to court.
Oh.
Yes, I mean, for their failure to uphold the Access to Information law. I mean, government cannot create laws. The purpose of law is to establish transparency and accountability. Fundamentally, that is the purpose of each and every law, because, you don't want to create an institution or hand over resources, responsibilities to institutions and individuals and leave them at their whims and caprices to do as they imagine. It has to be, their actions, decisions have to be guided by law. But this law requires that in the performance of those functions, that they are transparent and accountable for their decisions and actions. So where they fail to do that, in this case, abiding by the Access to Information Act, what citizens and organizations like us can do is to go to court to hold them to account. Yes, so we are going to court, certainly, on a number of issues against a number of institutions. But also, Peter, what we are doing as a year of transparency and accountability, we are listing all issues, unfinished issues over the period where there has not been transparency or accountability, and writing to specific institutions to tell them to provide information to us or to the public, or they give it to us, we send it to the public, and where there are accountability issues in terms of performance or failures to perform and so on, violations, we pursue them to make sure we go to court. So this morning, one of the letters we will be issuing will be to the Inspector General of Police, for example, to raise issues in terms of policing in this country.
What's wrong with policing?
That is policing public assemblies. You recall just towards the end of the year, the IG deployed armed police to the University of the Gambia, where they even deployed a tear gas, leading to some students being hospitalized. I mean, they said there will be action. They released a press release, a short one, that the officer who did that was not ordered to do so. But they have not told us what is the outcome of that inquiry. Soon after
if they were to call you after this program to give you, the outcome of that, investigation, would you withdraw the letter?
No, I wouldn't withdraw the letter. We have to put the letter as a record, because Peter, there will be accountability today or tomorrow. Maybe another commission of inquiry is coming, so that when that day comes, it will be on record that the IGP was informed, officially, by institutions, organizations in this country about issues. So it is not just about that incident, but that incident reflects a whole way and manner, the wrongful way and manner the IGP conducts himself when it comes to public assemblies. People wanted to hold activists and community members in Sukuta a press conference at Salaji, a few weeks ago. Again, he deployed officers attempting to stop a press conference. Can you imagine? This is a press conference which does not require any police permit as far as the Public Order Act is concerned.
The choice of the place for the press conference, I believe, was the issue. And, especially over a very sensitive matter.
But citizens, the IGP doesn't own this country. No company owns this country.
But they're in charge of law enforcement.
Law enforcement. So unless people violate the law, or people engage in acts that, of course, would violate the law or would cause, harm and so. But for people, decent, sovereign citizens, to assemble, to call a press conference, to raise their issues and concerns, the police are required to give them protection, not to attempt in any way to disperse them. So those kinds of acts, somebody needs to tell the IGP to remind him of his constitutional and legal obligation to protect human rights. So for that matter, we are going to submit a letter to raise a number of issues on policing of public assemblies in this country on that. And as you know, yesterday, there was also an accident in Kafuta in which, 3 people have been reported dead already and 40 or so.
Over 40 injured, yes.
Injured.
According to the papers.
Yes. Here, I'm going to...
But that's not... The IGP is not responsible for that, is he?
Of course, because this...
He's responsible?
Oh, yes. And the IG has to be held to account because the IG mounted police checkpoints across the length and breadth of this country. So that every vehicle traveling around this country, anywhere in this country, you pass through a checkpoint. What's the purpose of the checkpoint? So a vehicle that is unroadworthy, cannot pass through checkpoints only to go and plunge into a crowd. Then certainly the driver of that vehicle will be held to account. But the police have to be held to account. Why do you put up checkpoints? What are your functions in terms of traffic management in this country so that such an accident could happen? Peter, I drive along this road. I see checkpoints. Sometimes I'll stop there because a truck or a vehicle will pass a checkpoint and meet with me just few meters, either one headlight at night, one headlight, or no headlights.
Yeah.
And I asked the officer there, but haven't you seen this vehicle? It has no headlights. Yeah. And the officer would tell me, I didn't even notice.
Particularly these sanitation trucks. There's one notorious one along this, Herman Minor Highway. I come to work very early, and it has zero lighting system.
Yeah.
No reflectors, nothing.
Yeah. So, Peter, this country is not a jungle. We have law here. The police and the president like to emphasize the rule of law, people to be law-abiding. But they are the ones we put in charge to enforce the law. And they have to enforce the law effectively, efficiently, professionally, impartially, equally. So we cannot have law enforcement agencies in this country. They put up structures, across the country, yet those laws and structures are not performing.
Okay.
Somebody has to hold them to account.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just past 9 o'clock. How would you like to, end this conversation, Madi?
I just want to call on all Gambians to join EF Small's call to make transparency and accountability our #1 national agenda for our budget, for our services, for our public goods, for the conduct of our public officials, for the management of our public resources, everything in this country to center it on transparency and accountability. If Gambians insist on this, Peter, within the first 6 months, the face of this country will change.
We'll keep reminding them on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Madi, thank you very much for coming. That's Madi Jobarteh, founder of the Edward Francis Small Center for Rights and Justice. Now I can say it without referring to any literature.
People will get used to it.
Absolutely.
Eventually.
It's one of the longest acronyms you can have in this country.
Yeah. EFSCRG.
Yeah. Even you struggle. So there you go. We'll be back tomorrow. That's Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. Thank you very much for the pleasure of your company. Just one announcement before we put on Al-Sama. West Coast Radio is looking for a driver. So if you have a valid driver's license and you've done work, especially driving private vehicles, do get in touch with Mr. Jibril Jassi, 699-0107, 787-0107 or 924-24-24. West Coast Radio, moy ut driver. So su fekkee ne am nga driving license jokkool ak Mr. Jibril Jassi ku dem tey nga am liggéey. Sorry?
Because I can do that in Mandinka for you.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Yo, bad in Lamborghini, ko West Coast Radio be driver la Mandinka. So near drivers license kendo sotom bete ma sotom. Memma expired. Ha ni Jibril Jassi na West Coast Radio. Jibril Jassi je
699-0107.
Yo, what on number ti bu isa call.
And 787-0107.
Yo, ala baraka.
Thank you very much, Madi.